Hi folks, Chris Voss here from the chrisvossshow.com, the chrisvossshow.com. Hey, we're coming in here with another cool phone comparison review between two exceptionally popular phones in the Android marketplace, the Googlenexus 5 versus the AT&t Samsung Galaxy S4. Both these, of course, are great phones and have some of the latest software on them from Android. And let's talk about them. We're going to review them, take a look at maybe some benchmarking, some camera work, give you some specs, and tell you kind of what I think about each of these phones. How about them apples? So be sure to go to our good friends at AT&t.com for loaning us the Samsung Galaxy S4 with the fastest download upload speeds. We've actually put an AT&T SIM card chip in the Nexus 5, and it's working awesome with the AT&T service. So we're very impressed by that. The Google did send us the phone, so thanks to Google for giving us the hookup on that. So let's take a look at these. You can see they're almost kind of very similar in size, design, beautiful screen size, etc., and all that good stuff. Let's go through some of the specs, and we'll go through the facts first so that we can compare them. So the Nexus 5 has the latest Android on it. This one we've updated to 4.4.2 on the Android software. Comes out of the box with 4.4. And it's got a height of 5.43 inches, 2.72 in width, and 0.34 inches in thickness. It's got a weight of 4.59 ounces. Comparatively, with the Samsung Galaxy, you can get 4.2.2 on this. It's got 5.38 in height, 2.75 in width, and 0.31 inches. It's also got a 4.59 ounce weight. So very interesting that both these phones actually weigh about the same. How about them apples? The display size on the Nexus 5 is a beautiful 5-inch display. It's 1080p with 445 ppi. Now that's a beautiful ppi, which is pixels per inch. It comes in just shy of the HTC One screen, which is beautiful, I think 468. So it definitely is a beautiful 1080p screen. Fairly rivaled is the Samsung Galaxy S4, 5-inch screen, 1080p. 441 pixels per inch. So pretty much they're within the same league in competition, both in size, weight, and pixels per inch, and beautiful screen. Now, with the Nexus 5, you're looking at a camera of 8 megapixels, 1080p at 38 frames per second, and a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. On the Samsung Galaxy S4, you're looking at a camera of 13 megapixels. It's got 1080p at 30 frames per second with a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. One point I want to make here: when the Nexus 5 first came out, a lot of people weren't too impressed with the camera, its functions, etc., etc. They did come out with a new update that's improved the camera quite a bit and done a lot of cool things. People seem to be a lot more happier with it. Conversely, 8 megapixels versus 13, and we'll show you some camera work here in the stuff to talk about the comparisons between the two. On the Nexus 5, we have a Snapdragon 800. It's one of the latest, fastest, greatest chips to come out of Qualcomm. It's a 2.26 gigahertz quad-core processor. It comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of built-in storage. Battery-wise, well, let's first get into the Samsung S4 and talk about the difference there. With the S4, you're looking at a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600, so it's an older generation than the 800 that's in the Nexus 5. What's interesting is the benchmarks you'll see between the two of these here in a bit. It's got 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of storage, and with the S4, you have something you don't have with the Nexus 5. With the S4, you have expandable memory where you can take and expand the memory with a micro SD card in the back. It has a removable back as opposed to the Nexus 5, which does not. On the Nexus 5, you're looking at a battery of 2300 milliamp hours, which is a good size, and of course it has NFC chip in it, so you can do NFC technology. With the battery pack in the Samsung Galaxy S4, you're looking at 2600, so a little bit bigger battery on the S4 over the Nexus 5, but not that much, just 300, which is what, maybe 8% increase or 7% increase. Now, Some big differences here too also between these phones. The Nexus 5 comes with QI technology, which makes it so that you can use chargers that lay flat on your desk, and you can just set the phone on the charger and it will automatically start charging for you. So it has wireless charging is what they call it. Now, you can do the same with the Samsung Galaxy S4, but you have to buy an additional pack. You can go to Amazon or something and put it in the back of your case. I use it on my Note 3 and it works great, but it doesn't come with the phone. So that's definitely a feature we want to point out of the Nexus 5. It's kind of cool just to be able to charge your phone wirelessly, and it's one of the things that I really love. So let's take a look at both these phones body and design wise. You got your front facing camera, you got your speaker, you got your capacitive touchscreen buttons, you got your back button, your home button, and your recent apps button. With the Samsung Galaxy S4, you're looking at your front-facing camera, I believe, is here. You've got some different sensors that are here. You've got a back button, home button, and capacitive touchscreen button here. Let's flip around to the back on both these. Now, on the back of both these phones, you can see we have your camera eyepiece, your flash, the Nexus logo. It's got a nice ergonomic, comfortable back, as does the S4. Feels pretty good. I noticed a lot of fingerprints on the Nexus. I'm sorry, the Nexus 5, I should say. I mentioned 4, didn't I? And on the Samsung S4, it's got the usual back that has been very popular with the Galaxy line. You've got your lens, your flash, and you have your speaker on the back here, which is kind of interesting. I never liked having the speaker on the back, and with the new Note 3, they put the speaker on the bottom, so I'm hoping they're going to carry that over to the Galaxy S5. Let's take a walk around both these devices. From the top here, we have on the left your Nexus 5, the microphone hole, and we have a earphone jack. On the S4, we have your IR blaster here, where you can control TVs, small microphone hole, and a earphone jack there. Between the sides on both these, they both have a volume rocker down the side. On the bottom, on the Nexus 5, we have a speaker in your sync charge area, small microphone hole on the S4, and the sync charge port there on the bottom. We also have on the Nexus 5 a power button here, and we have your SIM card tray. On the S4, we have your power button here. Let's also take a look at one other feature that you have with the S4. You have the removable back to it, and also the removable battery. So you can remove this battery, you can have other batteries. I do this, I actually flip this out. If you notice, it's not a Samsung. Got these off of Amazon. You also have your SIM or your micro SD card tray here, where you can put micro SD stuff, and you've got the contacts for the QI wireless charging if you want SIM cards there. So that's one feature of the S4 that's very different than the Nexus 5, where you have the removable back, the removable battery. You don't quite have that with the Nexus 5, but it does a really good job, especially with the way they've coded it and battery life, etc., etc. Let's take a look at one feature that's unique to the Nexus 5. It's got the integration of Google Now, which is really cool. Just by swiping from left to right, right to left, from your menu, you can take and get right into Google Now. I like that feature because there's no more hunting for the Google Now app button. And of course, you can say, OK, Google Now with the Nexus 5. And as you can see, I've also got my Nexus or my Samsung Galaxy S4 hooked up. But yeah, the great thing about the Nexus 5 is you can say, OK, Google Now, and it will go ahead and activate it, just like it will with the Moto X and some of the popular features that are out there. It's nice having that integration. Now, one of the major factors that people like about the Nexus product is that it is without bloatware, especially when you buy it from Google. It doesn't have all sorts of added products onto it. It doesn't have added products that come from carriers such as AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, etc., wherever you may find a Nexus phone. So it's got just the Google stuff on it. What's really cool is updates from Google, so it gets the very latest software. No bloatware, no crapware, as they call it. A lot of people love that element of this phone. It's not a phone that has overly done processes that are constantly operating that you have to compete with to get the phone to do whatever you want. So many people like the Nexus 5 for that reason. One other thing I should point out, the differences that are very glaring between both these phones. They're both highly compatible. The features, you can tell, are very highly compatible. The one glaring fact that I want to bring up between these two phones, well, you notice that they have comparable specs, comparable builds, and everything else. A huge difference is the price. Now, you can buy the Nexus 5 from Google directly for $350 right now as of this video. In doing so, you get a phone that doesn't have bloatware, etc., and you're buying the phone outright for $350. Now, and you just put your SIM card tray and away you go. With the S4, you're going to pay probably upwards, depending upon when you see this video, $500, $600, $700 for the Nexus or for the Samsung S4 if you wanted to buy it outright. That's a huge difference, almost half of what you're going to pay for the Nexus 5 comparatively to the S4. And as you saw with the specs, you're getting a very comparable product and a high quality product. And for a lot of people, that's really freaking awesome. So anyway, that's a huge feature, that and the bloatware, that a lot of people really like this phone. And it's a very capable phone. I like it, and I'm very impressed with it, especially for the price. Geez, it's an incredible deal for what you can get it for. Anyway, moving on. So with the Samsung S4, you do get a lot of feature-rich features. You've got power saving, where you can gear back the cores, screen mirroring, multi-window S-beam, NFC stuff, air gesture, air view, smart stay, smart local or smart scroll, smart pause, where you can pause videos, almost a different kind of programs where you can do stuff. You've got the IR blaster, etc. Now, there's a lot of features, and it's very feature rich, and I like it, but some people just don't like having all that junk on there, and they don't really feel they're going to use it, so they like the Nexus 5 better. To you, it's really a personal decision as to what you feel works best for you in your mind. Okay, so now let's look at a benchmarking feature of both these phones. You can see that the multi-core score on the phone with the Nexus 5 is much higher. It's got 907 single core score and 2644 multi-core score. It's very fast, and what helps is that it's missing some of that bloatware crap where the people don't like that slow the device down by operating in the background. It also has the latest 4.4.2 operating system here, but really it's all about this Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, 2.27 gigahertz, one processor, 4 cores. That's really where the difference lies. This is a new, fast, ultra rockin' phone. Now with the Samsung Galaxy S4, you're looking at 649 and 760 multi-core score. That's actually not a bad score when it comes to phones. It's actually one of the better phones that's on the market right now. But it's a different chipset. If you look at the Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 here with the 1.9 gigahertz core with 4 cores, it's obviously not quite as good with this over here being 2.27. The speed and of course the advancement of the Snapdragon 800 chip, if you're familiar with it, is pretty awesome. You can see we're operating the same OS system from Android, but of course this is going to have some crapware and bloatware over here on the Samsung S4. So it gives you a really interesting design. You can see why people like the Nexus 5 better over speed. Let's take a look at the cameras, because the cameras on both these devices is definitely a factor. Now, when the cameras first came out for the Nexus 5, many people weren't happy with the results that they were seeing and everything else. Let's see if we can't flip this around. You can see we've got video mode, camera mode, different things that we can get into here. And let's see if we can't switch that around to the front there. There we go. And let's take a look at the camera mode on the Samsung. Now, with the latest update that's come from Google, many people are more happy with the focusing element and different things that they were having issues with on the Nexus 5. Things seem to be fairly repaired. Now, the big difference here is that we have an 8 megapixel camera over here, but we have a 13 megapixel over here. There's some different features to this which are pretty cool, where you have these things where you can go into the menus on this pop-up. You can actually just slide into your gallery if you want and get into it very easy, where it's not a lot of big deal to do it. You can, of course, adjust stuff. You have scenes. You can adjust iOS and everything else, just like you could with anything. So it's got some good feature stuff. It takes good pictures. I would say, good to fairly great pictures with the Nexus 5. Nothing I'm going to write home about, I guess is the way I want to put it. With the Samsung S4, it is very feature rich, and to me the camera is 10 times, if not more, better than the Nexus 5. The Nexus 5 is a good camera, but there's a lot of feature rich you might call them bloatware or crapware features on the S4, where I can speak and have the camera do stuff. I can adjust settings of how much the video is, how much the resolution is for my pictures and everything. I even have a scene mode, which is pretty innovative, of Samsung, where you can add different scenes, panorama shots, eraser shots. You can do so much more with these custom made shots that you have with Samsung. You can also create different tonal scenes too, where you can create, blues, backgrounds, pinks. They have everything pre-programmed in. So they have a lot of stuff that's going on with the Samsung S4 phone, and I think it's a much better camera. If you want something that's got a lot more toys, features, and everything else, the S4 may be for you. If you want something just plain free of bloatware and will do the job and rock and roll, you can use the Nexus 5, and it will do a great job for you. So I think they're both good phones, but I would say the S4 is a great phone, and I love the different features and different stylings and everything else I can do with it. So there you have it, our comparison between the Nexus 5 from Google and the AT&T Samsung Galaxy S4. I think they're both excellent phones, and like I say, one of the big differences is the price of what you're paying. You're getting a faster phone with the Nexus 5. You're also getting one that's free of bloatware and crapware, and you're also getting a phone that's half the price, or roughly half the price, depending on when you watch this video. So you can decide which phone works best for you. For me, I love crapware and bloatware, and I love all sorts of additional toys. I don't mind it, and I love the Samsung Galaxy S4, and it's a phone that I use fairly often. So anyway, that's our opinion. Thanks to AT&T for sharing the phone with us with the fastest download and upload speeds. Thanks to Google for sharing the Nexus 5 for us. And be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube, check back in often, go see AT&T at AT&t.com. Thanks for coming by.